All right, Dante's Boxing Nation over here with the man, the miracle man,
I'm
Danny
feeling happy,
Jacobs.
Dante.
Man.
I got a chance to meet you, brother.
Oh,
it's been an honor, man. I've always followed your work.
I appreciate
I want to say I appreciate you for supporting the sport of boxing, doing such a positive job supporting us fighters. We put our lives on the line, and you do such a tremendous, respectful job of doing what you do for us, and I want to commend you, brother.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? You know, you guys have heard me say on a couple videos, before this fight was announced, Canelo Alvarez versus Danny Jacobs, I told you guys that my prediction is Canelo Alvarez will get the decision. He will win the fight. And that doesn't necessarily mean he may deserve to win the fight, but if I had to pick someone to win this fight, I think his hand is going to be raised. Why? Because even if Danny Jacobs wins the fight, they're going to give the fight to Canelo Alvarez. I told you guys, I believe Danny Jacobs, he's going to have to probably knock down Canelo Alvarez a couple times. He's going to have to hurt him to the point to where it could be a 10-8 round and do that a couple times in the fight. He would have to win this fight damn near 9 rounds to 3 to probably get a split decision, unfortunately. And apparently BJ Saunders, he agrees with my assessment because he just pretty much echoed everything that I've been saying for the last couple of months. Here's what BJ had to say. I'm happy for Jacobs because he's been through a lot in his personal life. He's getting a big payday and maybe he can beat Canelo, but he's never going to get a decision. He's never going to get a decision unless you knock him out and he's on the floor for a minute or two. Canelo is the only man they tried to rob Floyd Mayweather for. It was a majority decision. I really feel sorry for him because he's really got the tools to beat Canelo. But will he? I doubt it because of the politics in boxing. Sometimes that stops fights from happening. I wish him all the best and I hope he does the job. End quote. You know, the funny thing about BJ Saunders saying that is a lot of Canelo Alvarez fans, they're listening to this and they're saying deep down, man, I hope you're right. Because a lot of these fans, they don't care if Canelo deserves the win or not. They just want to see his hand raised. I mean, realistically, Danny Jacobs, he could win 10 rounds to 2, but if they give the fight to Canelo Alvarez, these fans are going to say that was the right decision. They're not going to stand up for what's right and say, hey, I'm a Canelo Alvarez fan, but that was a clear robbery. The only way they would say that is if it's someone like a Gennady Golovkin who's on the hope list. But when it comes to fighters on the coincidental list, like a Danny Jacobs, a Demetrius Andrade, a Charlo, there's no way they're going to say that Charlo or Danny Jacobs was robbed against Canelo. Case in point, Edeslani Lara. Do you guys ever notice the same fans that say Golovkin was robbed against Canelo in the rematch? You never hear any of those fans say that Lara was robbed against Canelo. And I'm not saying you never hear all of them. I'm saying you never hear any of them say it. So BJ Saunders, he made some great points. He mentioned once again Floyd Mayweather, them trying to rob Floyd Mayweather. For those of you guys who don't know, one of the judges had the fight a draw. So once again, if Floyd Mayweather can win almost every round against Canelo Alvarez and one judge still has the fight a draw, can you guys imagine what Danny Jacobs is going to have to do in this fight? What Danny is going to have to do in this fight is he's going to have to win every single round extremely decisive. For example, let's say if Danny Jacobs, he clearly won the round, but it was competitive. That's all some of these judges are going to be looking for. Once again, even if Canelo lost the round, but if it was competitive, some of these judges are going to be looking for an excuse to give the round to Canelo Alvarez. So Danny Jacobs is going to have to be very aggressive, and once again, he's going to have to be very decisive with how he wins these rounds. He's probably going to have to hurt Canelo bad in this fight and knock him down a couple times just to get a split decision in this fight. Now, Danny Jacobs is aware of this, and Danny Jacobs, he said that he needs to knock out Canelo. Even Danny Jacobs said he's planning on knocking out Canelo Alvarez. Now, I know as soon as Canelo Alvarez fans hear that, they're going to say he's talking crazy, and how can he knock out Canelo when Canelo has never been knocked out before, etc., etc. But what you guys have to realize is every single fighter that has been knocked out before, there was a time when they had never been knocked out before. And I'm not saying this fight ends in a knockout, but I'm just telling you guys, you have to be a little bit more realistic. Mike Tyson, no one expected him to get knocked out by Buster Douglas. You could go all the way back to Marco Antonio Barrera. I remember when he was fighting against Junior Jones. Junior Jones wasn't even supposed to be a tough opponent. He was supposed to be on the decline. And he knocked out an undefeated Marco Antonio Barrera. I mean, I could give you guys tons of examples, but you guys get the point. This is something else that needs to be noted. When it comes to knockouts, Danny Jacobs has definitely knocked out far better competition than Canelo Alvarez has. When you think about Canelo Alvarez's knockouts, what would you say is his best knockout in recent years? You would have to say against Rocky Fielding, James Kirkland, and Amir Khan. And what do all of those fighters have in common? They were all knocked out previously before they fought against Canelo Alvarez. Rocky Fielding was knocked out in the first round against Callum Smith. Now, when it comes to Danny Jacobs, his best knockout wins are against fighters that had never been knocked out before. And two of them were undefeated. Peter Quillen, who was undefeated, and he was somewhat of the favorite in that fight. Danny Jacobs knocked him out in the first round. Then you had another good opponent, Saleski Majes, who was undefeated. Danny Jacobs, he knocked him out. And then you have Danny Jacobs knocking out Sergio Mora. Now, Sergio Mora, he had a loss before, but he had never even come close to being knocked out. Danny Jacobs knocked him out. Once again, I'm not saying that Mora was the greatest opponent, but for you to be able to knock out a guy that no one else was able to knock out, it's impressive. It says a little bit more about Danny Jacobs' win than other opponents that fought against Sergio Mora. Now, this obviously doesn't mean Canelo Alvarez doesn't have a chance of knocking out Danny Jacobs, because one punch can change everything. But what it does tell us is Danny Jacobs, he does even better when he steps up in competition. So I'm expecting to see the best Danny Jacobs. I'm expecting to see the best Canelo Alvarez. I really hope this fight doesn't end in controversy, but it's kind of hard not to expect it when it comes to a Canelo Alvarez fight. We'll see what happens. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
Take your striking game to the next level with the Focus Ball. Dramatically improved footwork, timing, accuracy, reflex, head movement, and striking technique. Train every time, everywhere with the Focus